My eyes.
Councilors, I hereby call the Monday, December 4th, 2017, it being 7 p.m. The Finance Committee is here, and we have a quorum, and we're going to go into effect. I will say, Council Paul Studinsky called me. He is unable to join us this evening. He's not feeling that well. We do wish our good friend speedy recovery. Also, just to let you know, Fire Chief Mike Williams called me last week relative to agenda item number 2. He apologized. He's actually out of the city on a planned time out of the city. He was nice enough to offer to invite someone from the fire department. I declined. It's based on a $300 amount, Councilors. We don't need to spend overtime on someone coming here tonight. With that being said, number 1, please.
Okay. Appointment of Philip M. Decas of 172 Augusta Ave, Brockton, as a constable in the city of Brockton for a term of 3 years. Invited, Philip M. Decas.
Mr. Decas here. Entertain a motion, Councilors. Want to take it at the end of the meeting tonight?
Make a motion to take this at the end of the meeting.
There's a motion on the floor, properly second. We'll take number 1 at the end of the meeting. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, that carries. We will do number 1 at the end of the meeting. Number 2, please.
Order appropriation of the total grant in the amount of $300 from Firefighters Charitable Foundation to City of Brockton Fire Department. Invited, Honorable Mayor Bill Carpenter, John A. Condon, Chief Financial Officer, Michael F. Williams, Chief, Brockton Fire Department.
Move to recommend favorably.
Second.
City Council.
Any questions for Mr. Condon? Any questions on the motion? No questions. So motion on the floor, properly seconded. Favorable recommendation back to full council. If you're in favor of that, please raise your hand. If you're opposed, that motion carries. Favorable recommendation back to the full council. Thank you, councilors. Number 3, please.
Order appropriation of $315,586 from Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, State 911, Department Fiscal Year 18, Public Safety Answering Point and Regional Emergency Communication Center Support and Initiative Grant to City of Brockton Police Department Fiscal Year 18 Public Safety Answering Point and Regional Emergency Communication Center Support and Initiative Grant Fund. Invited, Honorable Mayor Bill Carpenter, John A. Condon, Chief Financial Officer, John Crowley, Chief, Brockton Police Department.
Chief Crowley, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here. Do you have any statement for the committee?
This is a grant that we've had the last few years. It's used to supplement and backfill salaries for our ETDs and dispatchers. Also, we're going to be able to purchase 6 mobile data terminals to go in the cruisers and 3 scanner copier printers for the downstairs.
Move favorable.
Second.
There's motion on the floor. It's properly seconded. It's a favorable recommendation back to the full council. If you're in favor of that, please raise your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. That motion carries. It's a favorable recommendation back to the full council. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Number 4, please.
Order appropriation of $23,000 from the Stabilization Fund to Cemetery Department Personal Services other than overtime in order to provide funding to temporarily fill a vacancy caused by a recent workman's compensation claim. Invited, Honorable Mayor Bill Carpenter, John A. Condon, Chief Financial Officer, Timothy Carpenter, Superintendent, Cemetery.
Move favorable.
Good evening.
Second.
Good evening, Mr. Carpenter. How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you. Yourself.
Statement for the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm down to 2 guys in the cemetery. This is really needed to safely perform the duties that we've been tasked with.
So motion on the floor, properly seconded. A favorable recommendation back to the council. If you're in favor, please raise your hand. If you're opposed,
Mr.
raise your
Chairman,
hand.
just a quick question.
On the motion, Mr. Rodriguez, please.
Mr. Carpenter, I mean, this is a position that you're asking for to temporarily fill a position that's vacant right now?
Yes, due to someone being out on workman's comp, correct.
But how many employees do you actually have at the cemetery?
Right now, currently, I have 2.
2. Is there any way...
2 and the secretary, so 2 that actually perform burials and whatnot. So this position would be someone to help supplement that workforce.
For a person that's out on workman's comp?
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you think that, I mean, and I'm not asking you this question because I want to, trap anybody one way or the other, but do you think that's sufficient in terms of dealing with the cemeteries that we have in this community? And do you have any plans to ask the mayor to put in an additional position so that if this happened again, we're not running into the risk of of having to hire somebody on a temporary basis to fill a position?
I will continue to put in my budget request, additional staff I have for the 5 budgets I've prepared before. I will continue to do so.
Do you plan on doing that this time around as well?
Absolutely. Hopefully, hopefully this temporary position becomes permanent and I'm back up to at least 3.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cruz?
Thank you. Just a quick question, just to correct me if I'm wrong. You are able to, under the contract, temporarily use somebody from the parks up there?
Correct.
To fill in also, correct?
And I have been for about the past year
Okay.
to try and help supplement that. Unfortunately, that person too has been injured, so that puts me down on both sides.
Thank you. Thank you. All set, Mr.
Any other questions, councilors? We have a vote before us. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. That motion carries. It's a favorable recommendation.
Thank
Back to
you.
Full council. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Order number 5, please.
Order that the city solicitor be authorized to commence legal action in the matter of Westbridge Landing, 855 Main Street, West Bridgewater, for an unauthorized sewer connection and any and all matters which are related thereto. Invited, Honorable Mayor Bill Carpenter, Philip C. Nasrallah, Solicitor, Larry Rowley, Commissioner, Department of Public Works.
Attorney Nazarella, good evening.
Good evening. Mr. President, I had asked that this be in executive session because it's regarding litigation, eminent litigation, and it may have facts and details that should remain within a private setting.
Have you spoke to our legislative counsel like I had asked?
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right, so,
Mr. Chairman, just an opinion of mine is, if the solicitor feels that that's I would think we only need to go into executive session if we want to ask the details and the strategy. In my opinion, I think we can vote to give him the authorization if he feels that this is an illegal connection. I don't have a problem voting on and not asking him his strategy, but...
well, quite honestly, thank you, counsel. Quite honestly, we don't have the authority to tell
exactly.
city solicitor what he or she cannot file on behalf of the city.
It's my understanding that you have to come to us because it's an illegal connection, correct?
I'm still trying to understand why that exists, but under Section 23-103 of the ordinance, the city solicitor must seek permission from the city council in order to commence litigation on an infraction. I don't know the purpose behind that, but that is correct. Secondly, and to the point of the executive session, I'm a little bit behind an 8 ball in the sense that it's been already advertised publicly as to why I'm here. I think that jeopardizes somewhat the situation in the sense that if the city council decided not to authorize litigation, you have an individual down there that knows there's been a contemplation of a lawsuit against him. So I think that the way this came to this point today got a little, we dropped the ball someplace along the line. It should not have been posted with the person's name and property address.
In my opinion, Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Nazarella, I think there's probably a little bit of, there's kind of two pieces of law working against each other. My opinion is executive session is something we very rarely would like to go into. In my opinion, I'm prepared to make a motion to give him permission to move forward with this and move it from there.
My question would be this, as chair, was it, and maybe to Mr. Rowley and to the attorney, was there an unauthorized sewer connection? That's
Yes.
a fact. Yes, there was?
Yes, there
And I'm
is.
going to vote to support that. If there's an unauthorized is unauthorized.
There was a length of pipe laid without...
We don't need to discuss any other facts,
I
but
make a
if it's
motion, I
unauthorized.
make a motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor, properly seconded, to authorize, excuse me, the city solicitor to move forward. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Carries unanimous. Thank you, Mr.
May
Solicitor.
my next appearance be as smooth and easy.
Good luck with that.
Have a good evening. Mr. Rowley, thank you for being here as well. Mr. Hill, thank you. We'll go back to number 1, and I don't believe the gentleman showed up, but if we could, is Mr. Deacus here? Mr. Deacus, third and final time. Will the council?
Make a motion to postpone to the next
Second.
finance meeting.
Second.
We will, we have a motion on the floor, it's properly seconded to postpone agenda item number 1 until the next FinCom, which will be, I believe, the last FinCom of the year, the legislative session. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, that carries. We're going to postpone number 1 to the next FinCom, which will be the last
Chairman,
FinCom.
on that, could you ask our clerk to please make a phone call to that person, because if he doesn't show up, I believe he'd have to as we go into a new session next
to
year,
go
he
through the
he
whole
would have to do
process.
the whole process again.
Absolutely.
So if you could direct our clerk to reach out and let him know that if he doesn't make it, he's going to start all over again.
Clerk, duly noted, please. Thank you very much. Councilors, we're going to conclude tonight. I know Mr. Cruz has a moment of personal privilege. Just to remind you again, next Monday night, 8 o'clock, full city council here, okay? The following Monday night will be Finance Committee, and then the third fall, 3 weeks from today, is Christmas. So we'll be meeting on Tuesday, the 26th. It'll be our last meeting of the year, legislative session. We will have a caucus that night, so please be here. I have invited the two councilor-elects to join us. I hope that they take us up on that offer. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you. A moment of personal privilege.
You may.
I just wanted to, the public is probably looking at my lovely seasonal wreath here and wondering why I have that here tonight in the chamber, but the ever-ready bunny, Mary Waldron, had contacted me and asked me to remind people that this Friday, the 8th, at Melrose Cemetery, the Just Checking In Foundation will be laying 1,500 wreaths on the cemetery headstones of veterans at Melrose Cemetery. And they're looking for volunteers. All you have to do to volunteer is show up at the Melrose Cemetery, or you can donate. The foundation purchases all these wreaths on their own. And you can go to the Just Checking In website, which is www.justcheckingin.org, or their Facebook page and donate, but you can just show up and volunteer. It's a wonderful thing that Mary and the volunteers do every year, and kind of in John Waldron's memory. And again, thank you for what they do, and if anybody that's around can get there Friday, December 8th, starting at 9 o'clock, but they're there most of the day, so if you can give any part of your day, it'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez, please.
Moment of personal privilege,
Absolutely.
please. I'd like to ask and remind the members of the Real Estate Committee that we'll be holding a Real Estate Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 12th at 6 p.m. here in the members' chambers. So Tuesday, December 12th at 6 p.m. to discuss a couple items that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Cruz again.
Thank you, and just a reminder to the members of the Ordinance Committee that this Thursday night at 6:30, we have an Ordinance Committee meeting. It's important because it'll be the last one of the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else before us? Councilors, it never dawned on me in all my years on the council that during the holiday season, City Hall gets decorated, but the chamber doesn't get decorated. Didn't really dawn on me until we saw